this year for $500 and $1,000. And just days before he ran through a parade, Brooks had been released on a $1,000 bail after getting arrested. All he did was punch his girlfriend and run over her at a gas station. This is what happens when you make it easy for criminals to commit crimes and there's no retribution. Heather MacDonald is a fellow at Manhattan Institute. She joins us now. Heather, this is the most predictable catastrophe I've heard about in a long time, but it doesn't make it easier to watch and talk about.
Brian, we're witnessing the disintegration of civilization right before our eyes. When massive number of individuals know that they can rampage through stores, plundering and looting, confident in their immunity from the law, there is nothing left of the civilized order. The protection of property is the cornerstone of a stable, prosperous society. Merchants have to know that they can put their goods into the stream of commerce without being robbed blind. Now, the common thread in this shameful looting, in the Waukesha Christmas parade murders, and in rising gun violence is the concept of disparate impact. And unless that concept is explicitly refuted and rejected, there's no way we're going to get a handle on this rising crime. The reason that felony theft laws are not being enforced, the reason that Darryl Brooks was put back onto the streets despite an active warrant and a 50-page rap sheet is because enforcing theft laws or enforcing requiring bail has a disparate impact on blacks. You look at the videos. But law enforcement has a disparate impact on blacks, not because it's racist, but because the black crime rate is so high. But when you stop enforcing the law in order to avoid disparate impact, right, it's blacks who are hurt the most.
So Heather, what you're saying
the solution
is, right, just real quick, what you're saying is, if you look at the stats, raw numbers, more blacks are committing crimes than other minority groups, than whites. That's why the arrests are greater, and that's why there are more in jail. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. The law enforcement is a function of criminality. It is not driven by racism. The blacks die of homicide at 13 times the rate of whites. That's because they're committing homicide at 13 times the rate of whites. In New York City, where we are now, Brian, blacks commit about 75% of all shootings. According to the victims of and witnesses to those shootings, who are minorities themselves overwhelmingly, even though they're 23% of the population. Whites commit less than 2% of all shootings, though they're 34% of the population. So the solution here is not to stop enforcing the law. That means more mayhem, more deaths. The solution is to tackle, despite what Shahzabudin thinks is the root cause of crime, he would say poverty and racism. The root cause of inner city crime is family breakdown. As long as that problem goes unaddressed, our only solution is to enforce the law in a colorblind, just fashion.
When you steamroll children at a holiday parade on a Sunday afternoon, you no longer need to see a pie chart or a bar graph to know America, in Wisconsin, America's out of control. When they have to share the top story with this choreographed looting, you know America's out of control. And it's not because we're running out of food or money. It's not a catastrophe. This is a self-inflicted wound put forward by people who I believe want to destroy the country. And I think it's time for the average American, no politicians, to rise up and say they're not going to take it. Heather, you're all over this. I know how frustrated you are, but thanks for leading off the show.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
All right, meanwhile, we just told you about San Francisco.